This is hard for a down man to say, Jarlath, but congratulations on Armagh winning the All-Ireland. I'm assuming for you that was a highlight of the year.
Thank you so much for those very gracious and sincere words.
That's on behalf of all the people
Paddy,
from down.
And I know that they supported us in exactly the same way as we supported you whenever you had your victories in 91 and 94 when I was playing with Armagh.
Yes.
And you beat us in the first round in 91, and I remember that day very well.
I'm glad it doesn't stick in the memory, Jarlath.
But yeah, the funny thing about it was it's something that none of us really saw coming. If this time last year, if somebody said Armagh would be All-Ireland champions, nobody would have believed you. Armagh got to the final of Division 2. Going into the last minute of the game, we were a point up, and I was thinking in the Hogan stand, I think I'm going to get a chance to present a cup in my 3 years to an Armagh captain. Donegal came back with 2 quick points, beat us by a point. Then we were beaten in the Ulster final yet again on penalties. I get the blame for that to the extent that I'm the GAA President. A lot of people in Armagh were saying, when are you going to get rid of the penalties? But nobody saw the Armagh success coming, and it was just an incredible day for all of us. And the day of the All-Ireland final was extremely busy for the GAA President anyway, but to cap it off at that and then to be going to the banquet as the President on the day that your team wins the All-Ireland final was a very special moment.
And look, we have to talk about your son, Charlie Ogue, been part of the team as well. I mean, what was that moment like?
The thing about it is, Paddy, and anybody who has a child in their house who's a GAA player will know what it's like, that moments like that don't happen in every household where you get a chance to embrace your child after they won an All-Ireland medal. So I suppose it's a tribute really to the hundreds and hundreds of GAA players who go out every day, every night to train for the team, knowing really that they're not going to win anything big, and they're the real heroes in all of this. These are the truest volunteers in the truest sense of the word. So our players are just wonderful people and wonderful role models.
It was a lovely moment, it really was. And when you gave your 2 speeches from the Hogan stand in your first year, you spoke from the heart. How important was that for you? Yeah,
well, if I had known that so many people were going to talk about them, I might have prepared them a wee bit better, because it was only in the second half of the Armagh All-Ireland final that I started thinking that, yeah, now I should really talk about the grassroots and about the people who have the posts in the backyard. And if you talk to any of our stars, they'll say, I spent hours at the side of the house kicking the ball up. I know in our house it was, myself and Charlie Ogan, Fionnán and Conor, we would kick the ball up onto the roof, and when it came down, whoever caught it had to go around the cone and try and score. And for hours and hours we did that, and that's where you learn the basic skills. So with regard to the hurling final, I talk more about the diaspora, because, Paddy, you will know, for anybody who is abroad, and we have a massive amount of people abroad playing the games abroad, they will say that there are 2 days when they feel it most: Christmas Day and the day of the All-Ireland final. And I just felt that it was important to take those people into the stadium and say that, you know, we live in a very small world now where a lot of Irish people are abroad, and there's a lot of other people from other countries in our country, and one of our values is inclusion. And when you play the GAA, everybody can play because it is where we all belong.
As part of those Armagh celebrations, the Armagh team, along with some family members, coaching staff, other personnel, went on a celebration trip to Miami. There was an allegation of a sexual assault on that trip. Now, a lot of stuff we can't go into for legal reasons. The case has been investigated by the PSNI. You've chosen not to comment publicly on that case yet. Why is that?
Well, I haven't spoken publicly in it. Just because I haven't spoken doesn't mean to say that I haven't been involved, or that the Armagh County Board haven't been involved and the GAA haven't been involved at every level in trying to address this issue. There is a right of anonymity to all parties involved in this, a right to privacy. It's an Article 8 right in the Human Rights Act of 1998. We have to be very, very careful. Neither of the parties have waived that anonymity. It is now a matter for other people to deal with. It is not for me to speak about this yet. When the time does come, I will speak about it. And it's not the time even for the GAA to act outside of what we have to do legally yet. But when that time comes, we will. And I would really pay tribute to the amount of work that has gone on behind the scenes. Now, obviously, because I'm an Armagh person, when I was setting up the critical incident team, I took myself out of it because as an Armagh person, I'm too close to it. But we have some of the best minds in this country within the GAA and advisors outside of the GAA advising us on this.
Are you confident that those procedures are robust?
Very robust. At this point in time, the whole area of adult safeguarding is something that we are addressing. We have learned lessons from another issue which has occurred in Ulster, and one of the recommendations of that would be that the GAA and other sporting organisations would have to address the whole area of adult safeguarding. We have done that by means of setting up what we call a sports integrity unit. That's going to be rolled out in the next couple of weeks, and you will see more of that whenever after Congress happens at the end of February.
OK, you did have something to say about was Rory Gallagher's potential appointment to the coaching staff at Naas. Just to remind people of the background of this, Rory Gallagher was accused of domestic abuse by his ex-wife. He has categorically denied the allegations. The allegations have been investigated by the PSNI and the GAA. Rory Gallagher has never been charged. The GAA's Dispute Resolution Authority also overturned a coaching bar on Rory Gallagher. Now, you wrote an email to Naas GAA about their potential appointment of Rory Gallagher. Why did you do that?
Well, firstly, I didn't do anything publicly on any of those things. Just to clarify that, I haven't acted publicly. This is the first time now you're asking me the question. I have come on the show, and I'm quite happy to answer any question that I'm asked on the show. I made it clear whenever I became president that I wouldn't be a hands-off president. So I'm involved in my own club. But even though I'm involved in my own club, I don't even take part in the picking of the managers in my own club because we have a process for that. But having said that, I did take the opportunity to contact Naas and just let them know the reservations that I had, given the values and the principles that we have in the GAA, Paddy, which are very important to us. One of them, which is underlined by the Game Changers Initiative, which I launched on the 25th of November in 2024, and which really shone a light using the power of the GAA in all communities on the area of gender-based, domestic and sexual violence. And if Naas GAA had decided, well, thank you for that advice, but we're not going to take it, that was me finished with them. Because, as you know, clubs organise themselves. We are the most democratic institution in Ireland. But I wouldn't be true to myself as the person whose number one job is to protect the values of the GAA if I didn't at least point out to somebody somewhere that I had reservations. Once they decided what they were going to do, that was none of my business anymore. But remember, it was a private correspondence that I entered into.
It was, but also just to reiterate that Rory Gallagher denies the allegations. After investigation, there were no charges that were actually made. When you send an email to Naas GAA, you're the president of the GAA, club secretary gets it, do they have any real choice on what they do when something comes from you?
They do, because the GAA have corresponded in other circumstances with other clubs, and those clubs decided not to take the advice, and we didn't get involved anymore in that. So really, the difference between this and the Armagh, and there are many differences, is that one side has decided to waive their right to anonymity, Paddy. And once that happens, the Ulster GAA initially were faced with a choice. Now, you talked about the Dispute Resolution Authority. What they said was that they didn't act irrationally and they act proportionately, but we didn't have a rule by which we could debar them. So that is why we have set up the Sports Integrity Unit, to deal with matters of integrity which are linked to the values. So our official guide is linked to the rules, but we are more than rules. We are also about values. So our Sports Integrity Unit will deal with breaches of values, such as, let's say, anti-doping, such as issues like this as well. I was at the airport when I found out about this situation. I was going on holidays for a couple of days, for 4 days, and Suzanne had given it to me as a gift, and she had said to me, switch off your phone. I could have done that. I could have kicked for touch. But that's not what leadership is. Leadership is when the difficult decision has to be made, you're there to make it. And I knew that if that got out, it was going to make me unpopular in some circles. But you have to do it at times. It's not all about presenting cups to your son, and it's not all about ambassadorial and going around and opening pitches. If you're there to protect the values of the GAA, you have to do it. And sometimes that involves tough choices.
Rory Gallagher has said that he will take legal action if you don't retract that email. How did that make you feel?
Yeah, well, I don't bear any ill will against anybody. I hope he doesn't. But I can't retract anything that I have said in good faith in a private email to a club. And I don't say that with any sense of ebullience or determination or, bring it on. This is a really tragic situation for a family. It shouldn't be getting discussed on the Late Late Show. It's just sad that it is on such a wonderful evening for the Gaelic Athletic Association. But I hope that it doesn't go to that, and I would wish everybody well. And there is always a way back for people. The GAA is not interested in cancel culture. There is always a way back for people, and we have told Rory that as well. And Rory is aware of the way back for him. And I wish him and all of his family well, and I hope that we can reach a resolution in this.
But you're not going to retract the email?
No.
Okay. Critics have said that there's a bit of lack of consistency on your part with some of these cases. There's been no legal charges, we do have to say that, against Rory Gallagher, yet you felt the need to get involved in his potential appointment at Naas. In the case of Limerick All-Star Kyle Hayes, he was charged. He was also convicted on 2 counts of violent disorder. That was after you were elected president. You've chosen not to get involved in that case. Why is that?
Because, as I've said, we are not involved in cancel culture. There is always a way back for everybody in the GAA. Kyle Hayes was convicted. Kyle Hayes is under the stewardship of the Limerick management, which are outstanding people. And you know, our players are role models. We expect a lot of them. That's not what they sign up to. Our players are a reflection of the community and the society from which they come. And I have full confidence in the Limerick County Board and in John Kelly, the manager, to pick the best team that he can, and then the GAA journalists to pick the All-Stars after that.
But if you're looking at that and there's a case with no charges that you got involved in and a case with charges and a conviction that you haven't, can you see where some people might think...
Yes, there is a difference, I think, between a player who comes under the influence of a coach and a coach under whose influence the players lie. And I think that's a massive difference. And again, as I have said, nobody is saying that the road is not there for Rory to come back and coach at some stage in the GAA. I have said that clearly.
So there is a difference between a senior player being convicted of something and a senior manager being accused of something, do you think?
I think there is, because when you are a manager, you are imbuing your worldview, your values onto a team. You are the adult, and in many instances it's a lot younger people, impressionable young men who are there, who are coming under your influence. You know, you can train with a senior team when you're 17, 18. That's very, very young. And I am not saying for one moment that anybody who's ever managed a team has ever given wrong advice or bad advice to any team. I'm not saying that, but that's something we have to be mindful of. And as I've said, once you go through the process and you end the process, that's different. And of course, that situation in Limerick happened before I was president. And I am not going to be somebody who's going to jump in and meddle or interfere in any case, but I just thought in this instance that I thought when I contacted the chair of the club, we agreed that possibly the best thing for me to do would be to write to him. That's what I did, and he called an emergency meeting, and they decided then on foot of that. But as I've said, if they had decided not to, that was their business as well, and they wouldn't have heard from me again. But it would have been wrong of me not to at least offer my perspective. And that's what I said. And I mentioned that email, Paddy, twice. I do not have any authority here. This is up to the club, but I am offering you my perspective.
Let's get back to stuff on the pitch.
Okay.
New rules this season. Why did it need changed?
If you look at the match, the semi-final between Dr. Crokes and Argyll Kieran that was on last week, you would ask that question, why does it need change? That was a fantastic game of football, played by 2 teams who really wanted to win. And our rules allow for games like that to happen, but our rules also allow for a team to take 15 men behind the ball. And then you don't have a very good game. So if you look at some of the best forwards, which we have, the likes of David Clifford and Shane McGuigan and all of these incredible forwards, and Rian O'Neill, what we want when you go to a match, if you're a neutral, you want to see those guys in the ball. You want to see them scoring. You want to see them getting space. And the problem was, Paddy, that the situation was that too many players were playing in the wrong half of the field, and these players were getting caught up. They weren't getting space. And what we're doing really is to try and create a situation where we create that space again, where we see the best players being able to play their trade. And it's very ambitious, but I had one of the best people you could have asked for to take it on for me, and I got a great committee together, and it's a very, very exciting start to the league now.
Before we let you go, we've got to talk split season. It split a lot of people. There's a school of thought that says they're the greatest games in the world and we need to showcase them over the summer. Do you think we'll ever get back to inter-county championship finals at the end of the summer?
We might. I have an opinion on that. People know it. I think I would prefer to see them maybe in August. But we have to remember, The decision for the split season was the first decision in the last maybe 20, 25 years that was taken totally for club players. That's what it was for. It has been an advantage to the county game, a disadvantage, I feel. But if you talk to the genuinely dual counties, the likes of Galway, the likes of Cork, the likes of Dublin, Tipperary, they need about maybe 15 weeks to play their championship, round robin, 3 games, and then quarter-final, semi-final, final. And they counted up very, very clearly. And we have to be mindful of that. It is a decision, like the decision to do away with replays and bring in penalty shootouts, that have cost us a lot of money. There's no doubt about it. But
we all know the GAA loves a replay, Jarlath.
That's correct, yes. But at times, player welfare, you've heard me talk a lot about values. Player welfare is one of our values as well.
Look, I know you're a very, very busy man. Thanks so much for taking the time. Jarlath, good to see you.
Armagh.